Well, the Ministry of External Affairs in Singapore is holding a press conference of the Prime Minister's visit there. Let's listen in.
Conveyed to Vice President Pence that his vision of the Indo-Pacific was gaining acceptability and that we should utilize the forthcoming East Asia Summit to further build upon that. Vice President Pence also spoke of a free and open Indo-Pacific. He felt that India's contribution in ensuring this would be important, and we then discussed how both sides can strengthen cooperation in this area to ensure that this is an area of growth, of prosperity, of development, and of benefit for the countries of the region in the future. On bilateral issues, we had a brief discussion on trade-related matters. That's important for both sides. And we agreed that in a new relationship that we are building with the United States, where trade is expanding, we need to find ways in which we can help that process to take place. Prime Minister remarked in particular that in the last 2 years, that is the 2 years since President Trump has assumed office, American exports to India have grown by 50%. And it is perhaps one of the only countries, perhaps the only one of the top 10 countries with which the United States has a trade deficit, where the deficit has actually reduced last year and is on course to further reduce this year. And this is important from the perspective of the United States. There was a lot of discussion on energy. This is a new sector in Indo-US relations. We have begun importing oil and gas from the United States. It is expected to be valued at about $4 billion this year. And we expressed our readiness to import more gas and more oil from the United States as a way of expanding trade. Another area which we felt also would be important on the economic front would be the defense sector. There, of course, both sides agreed that there has been a substantial enhancement in our defense relationship, in our imports of equipment from the United States. But Prime Minister in particular stressed that there was a great opportunity for the United States and India in making defense equipment and in setting up defense industry in India. Not only because India is a substantial market, but because the way we are placed regionally, we can become a hub for exports to the rest of the region. So he conveyed to Vice President Pence that he hoped the Trump administration would recognize this as a new opportunity, as a new economic opportunity as well. And there was some discussion on how we should enhance this sort of trade. In addition, of course, there was appreciation for the outcomes of the recently held ministerial 2+2 and on the follow-up to the 2+2, both on the foreign policy side and on the defense side. There was some discussion on the issue of terrorism, and Vice President Pence referred to the coming 10th anniversary of the Mumbai terror attacks, which is the 26th of November, 26/11. In this context, he greatly appreciated the cooperation that had been built between the United States and India on counter-terrorism. And in response, the Prime Minister, while thanking him for these words, also reminded him that in one way or another, all the traces and all the leads in global terror attacks ultimately lead to a single source, to a single place of origin. And in that context, he did point out that the mainstreaming of people involved in the Mumbai terror attacks in a political process which had taken place during the recent elections in Pakistan should be a matter of serious concern, not just to the two countries, that is India and the United States, but to the international community. So there was some good understanding on the area of how we move forward in building cooperation in counterterrorism, and both countries recognize this as a challenge we have to fight together and to fight along with the rest of the international community. There was also some discussion which originated from the appreciation that the Prime Minister expressed on President Trump's hosting the Diwali event, of the contributions that have been made by the the Americans of Indian origin, the Indian American community for the last 3 decades, economically, culturally, in terms of integration, in terms of building or helping the building of democracy. And in this context, Prime Minister conveyed to the Vice President that Indians, when they come to the United States, not only bring their talent, their capacity to innovate, their capacity to excel, but also they are imbued in democratic values. That is a tradition in India that they carry to the United States, and therefore the value addition is in economic terms, but also in building the political and social fabric of the United States. And in that context, the Prime Minister therefore expressed the hope that this would be the approach that the United States might take when it looks at the whole issue of the H-1B visa. And this was appreciated by Vice President Pence. Finally, the Prime Minister reminded Vice President Pence that he had invited him to visit India. Vice President Pence has conveyed that he is ready to accept that invitation and that he will make a visit to India at a mutually convenient time in 2019. So overall, I think it was a very positive meeting. It was an important meeting for both sides. There was a sense of convergence, both on bilateral issues and on global issues. And we look forward to taking that relationship now in the coming months and in 2019. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I think we are rushing against time. We do not actually. We can't take any questions now because there is a meeting, and after that we have to go for another one. So please reserve your questions for the briefing, which will take place this evening. Thank you very much for coming.